300 years after our great nation began, we gather together to honor the completion of Vault 76. This sprawling underground shelter may have been engineered by Vault-Tec, but it was built by you. So that if the bombs do come, our way of life will endure.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is all there, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, blowing like the breeze. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country roads, take me home.
For when the fighting is stopped and the fallout has settled, you must rebuild. Not just walls, not just buildings, but hearts and minds, and ultimately, America itself.
Country roads, take me home, country roads.
In Vault 76, our future begins.
What is up, guys, and welcome to Building Fallout 76, one of the most hyped games of this E3, and now we know it's coming in November of this year, and that is amazing. And I'm just here to talk about what I would make if I was in the seat of the CEO of Bethesda making this game, or just a head developer, what I would do. And mostly what I'm going to be talking about in this episode is events. We really don't know what the core game is. We know it's not going to have NPCs. All the players, all the people that you see are going to be players. So, when I was making this episode, I had a hard time thinking of, wait a second, there's not going to be any NPCs, which means there's not going to be any quests. So, it's going to kind of lose that Fallout feel. And I was struggling like, man, what can they do? And I know, and the only thing I could really come up with is that it's going to be event-based, heavily event-based, and you're going to just be constantly doing stuff pertaining to the event that it's in. So the first event that I would do to test out, not only test out the servers, but also test out what people like. Fallout 76 doesn't really have an identity yet, and it's yet to be defined, and really experiment. And that's what the first couple of events should be, experiments to see what people like. And that's why they should do a treasure hunt event. Treasure hunting would be awesome. They could add a treasure hunt competitive mode where you had to, maybe 30 people had to go find one box, and that box comes with big rewards for in the progression system. And plus, then they could have a co-op mode or adventure co-op mode that takes you, somewhere distant. They could also still have players, so you could have specifically competitive and then have the regular for the game. Just go looking and getting rewards, but you get bigger rewards in the PvP treasure hunt mode. So that would be a good experiment mode. Then after that, maybe 4 months later, they have the hunting season mode. The hunting season mode will be taking advantage of all the new creatures that are in the new Fallout game. So, sloths, giant mutant sloths are a new thing. So there would be, like treasure hunt, there would be a competitive mode for players to get higher rewards. Players will be fighting over, who can get the most sloths, or who can get the most rad roaches if they are in the game. I don't know. Or any kind of creature, and it just gives that good, and it'll give a good sense of adventure. You'll know what player you might run into. You'll know if you're gonna find the creature, you might run into another creature. It could be a list of creatures that you had to find. So it really leaves the door wide open for anything for them to tweak little stuff like in the game pertain to the adventure elements. So that's why I think those first two expansions would complement the launch, because by that time it'll be February where both of those little smaller events happen. So the first big event will be Settlement Wars, coming in probably April. And what it is that to the Fallout 76 people are now having a war, sort of a civil war. It would fit into the Virginia sort of theme, and they're basically fighting over land. And what it adds to the game is that there's a new mode called Settlement Wars. Two teams of maybe 30 people are fighting it out over a certain amount of territory. Whoever has the most settlements by the time a 25-minute or 30-minute timer ends, that side wins the game and gets rewards. Now the losing side gets a little less rewards, but the other side gets big rewards. And then there are quests inside of the mode, so you can get accomplishments and make memories and stuff like that. So Settlement Wars, and plus what the biggest thing about it is that Virginia is a huge map, right? It's a huge map. The mode we're talking about is not going to be that big. It's going to probably have 15 to 20 settlements that you're fighting over in that little space. So when you play it, you might get thousands of different spots where you're going to have that war, making it having a lot of variety, versus you just having the same spot. You could have larger or smaller, and I think they should have, actually now thinking about it, they should have two. They should have 30v30, and 100v100 for bigger areas. There should be large and small for those who like, because this is a more action-oriented expansion. So it would be great to have all that in there, because then you got that kind of go-to mode if you're not really feeling, grinding or adventuring. If you just want that instant action, the Settlement Wars will be great. You'll be able to get into battle, make an impact, and each settlement you take has a different perk. One settlement may have armor, and this is why I think I lean toward larger, because one settlement could have armor crafting parts, which you can do is craft your gear. And not only that, but you could craft power armor there. So now you can upgrade your power armor, get ready to fight over another settlement. All these different places give different resources. So all throughout the Virginia map, you could have one place has, maybe a big water supply, and the water supply gives y'all a boost in a certain area. And then maybe if you take over that place, you get a perk where you swim and shoot, or swim faster, or something like that, and it makes it hard for the other team to take back that base. But it's generally should be a huge mode, 100 to 200. I mean, that's a little bit too big, but you get my idea here, is that it's going to be very sizable. There should be a smaller portion and a larger portion depending on who you are and how you like to play it. But yeah, this expansion would give just a lot of action in a game that's kind of sort of looks dried up, because there's no NPC, there's not really dialogue. They're just going to be robots telling you to build and do stuff, and then you gotta rely on the community. So yeah, that event would suit that perfectly in the time frame, because by that time you would have had two sort of co-op events where people have done stuff together. You kind of need more of the PvP to come in. So then after that, you would then have Radlands, and this would be a big one, because Radlands would be the first big addition to Fallout 76. What Radlands is that it adds a new huge place. Now it's not going to be nowhere big as Virginia, but it adds a huge new area for people to explore, and it'll be a raid, so you'll need like your suit. It'll add new adventures. You can go hunting in it. You can the other 3 expansions would stack on top of it, So now you can have all 3 of those events inside that place. So not only can you adventure through it, you have a new main quest there to maybe to clear it out or something. I think having a new expansion where it's kind of more level based will give the hardcore fans more of a reason to keep playing, because the expansions up to this point have been PvP and experimentation. So this would really help out with the hardcore RPG fans that are looking for modes like maybe a hardcore mode where you had to venture through, and then if you die or you lose your loot or something like that, to really keep the hardcore fans interested, and even the casual fans. You know, you could have just a multitude of different modes. Like you could have a mode where you and your team have to go hunt Moby Dick in a rat's lake. Now I know there was a lot of rumors that there is a radiated whale, a ghoul whale, excuse me. So that would just be a great mission to go do, hunt a ghoul whale. I mean, Fallout 4 should have probably had it, but since it didn't, and since this is a multiplayer game, they could really make a whole lot of money off of that. Just having different clothes that you get from killing the whale, and man, wouldn't that be awesome? So then, probably the biggest event for PvP players, because Radlands will be a PvE mainly expansion. The biggest PvP in year 1 would be Lone Survivors. Lone Survivors, most importantly, adds a Battle Royale mode. It adds a whole bunch of PvP survival modes, maybe a hardcore mode for PvE, but it mostly adds survival mode PvP. It adds a Battle Royale. So in this version of Battle Royale, which could last an hour or 2, it's going to be a long, drawn-out Battle Royale. You can hunt creatures, you know, constantly leveling up, which is what we haven't seen in the Battle Royale, a leveling up system, much akin to Fallout 4. We are constantly getting stronger as you do more sort of quests. You can build, you can get materials to build buildings. You can also find high-level guns. You know, it doesn't have to be a tier system, but the guns themselves can be high-tiered, you know, basically making it a little bit more realistic. You know, then when you upgrade or when you find a certain ability, like let's just say you find a certain ghoul ability that gives you the ability to eat other players, that you gain back health, much like the system at Fallout 4. You can, you know, mutate yourself and maybe give yourself speed advantages, or maybe you could turn ghouls against players, and all that type of stuff, because it can constantly be updated, you know, to fit whatever Bethesda needs it to fit. It just needs to be a little bit entertaining, but I think most of all it needs to be huge. It needs to be 500 players. Now I know what is the scope, how many people are going to be playing that then, and that's the real question. How many people are going to be playing that game? Can it support a 500 person battle royale? I mean, I think it could, you know, but the main point is that will that many people be playing? You know, it could be, and I think it should be more flexible. It should be 100 to 500, you know, for, you know, to fill up that whole 4-time map, and really constantly, you know, because even then players won't be constantly in your face. You'll have enough space, but you don't want too much space. It'll be like an hour and a half. It'll be a long Battle Royale mode. It'll have depth in itself. You can go find other players, and you can team up with your friends, because I think it won't affect people that badly, since you're so spread out from the squads. And then whatever you find, you gotta share it with your squad, making your squad weaker and more liable, whether it's a person that can have all in one. You know, let's just say you have 4 regular people that haven't found a power armor. I was about to say a T-Cherry, but I don't know if they were back then, the Brotherhood and stuff, but a power armor. So now you have an advantage. You can see, you have protection against their guns, but they don't have a protection against you. So I think it's random enough. Then you can have all kinds of visibility, and most importantly, you can add to it. And that's the most important thing that any battle royale can have, is that it has a good core and it can be added on to. Because if you just have that and you leave it like that, it can be perfect, but it will get tiresome. People like constantly coming back to it for something new. And that's why I say, Call of Duty's probably gonna fail. Battlefield's probably gonna succeed. PUBG's probably not gonna come back because they can't do the main thing that you need for a battle royale, is to keep it new content coming into that mode, which Fortnite has completely perfected at this point. So yeah, that event will be awesome for anybody that likes PvP. It's the largest PvP event. But this next event, this last event for year one, which will be coming out in November, the time Fallout 76 will go on sale. It'll have many people wanting to buy the game. This new expansion, it's the biggest expansion that's gonna have, and it is called Underground. Underground will add a whole new underground system under the map. It will literally be tunnels and tunnels. There'll be new wide open city areas that you can go to and build in, and it will have a whole bunch of missions. It'll have different underground enemies. It will be just a total overhaul on the PvP and some of the PvE, but a lot of the PvE rather than the PvP, excuse me. So yeah, you'll have different quests, and then you can stack all the other expansions. You can have an underground fight mode. You can have specific modes. This kind of reminds me of Metro. They can have a Metro-esque Fallout 4. And, since they're so close to each other, I could just imagine that happening, and Fallout 4 having more content. And really, that's what we haven't seen yet. We haven't seen a Metro Online. Now, I don't know I don't think Exodus is gonna have any multiplayer in it, but it'll be basically Fallout Exodus. So that would be great. That would be a great way to end off a year. They have all the information they need. They have the new direction. They've already probably started planning year 2 events, and that will give a lot of players. It'll give them Bethesda a lot of time before the next expansion, which will probably drop somewhere in March. Since that expansion is so big, and they'll be updating and everything in it. Plus, they have the Battle Royale to update. So that'll be a good year one. That's my thought of what year one should be: experimentation and giving each of the two groups of fans what they want out of this game, both for the PvP and for the PvE. And that is my thoughts on what Fallout 76 should be. Thank you for watching. Rate, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my other video on Doom, and just be looking out for some more building whatever game we're doing next videos. This is Godzilla Suplex signing out.